Throughout all of human history, nature has been an ever-present force, guiding and shaping us as a species ever since our birth in the African plains. We've not only survived our upbringing, but have even thrived to the extent that we now dominate our world, being more successful than any other species we share this planet with. But the forces at work around us have not left our mind, being so important to our various cultures that we've even referred to it as a parental figure, watching over us for all of time. Mother Nature is here for us all, both from the beginning of our lives and until the end. But with Mother Nature's image comes the idea that she is a slow and methodical creature, powerful in force but gradual in the way that she causes change. Mountains do not rise in matters of decades, and canyons take millions of years to form. There is a reason why the phrase, slower than continental drift exists. But the features that we are going to look at today are not those that form in millennium, nor are they formed in weeks or days. They are here within a matter of seconds, and the scars they leave behind on the Earth are hesitant to fade away. The objects that we will be focusing on are meteors, comets, and the craters they leave behind. Working under a grant provided by the Planetary Society, geologist Max Rocca set to work analyzing satellite imagery of the Vakata crater through eastern Colombia. Though the river rarely turns from its direct course through the jungle, Max spotted an anomaly with a force so intense that it caused the waters to bend from their single-minded advance. Dubbed the Vakata crater, this 50-kilometer wide impact zone was caused by a meteor landing on the Earth, in theory, within the past 30 million years. Evidence supporting this theory follows the logic that since the crater still affects the surrounding landscape, as in bending the river around its concentric rings, then the damage caused to the environment could not have been too long ago, on a geological timescale. Although this may not be the most impressive indentation on the planet, it is certainly an intriguing one due to being the equivalent of a wound on the Earth that is still yet to scar over, leaving its metaphorical impact on the environment on full display for humanity to observe. In stark contrast to the young yet small impact on the planet's crust, we now turn to one of the oldest, largest impacts ever discovered by humanity to date. Titled the Vredefort Impact Crater, this massive behemoth of a structure was formed by a 10-kilometer asteroid that hurtled towards Earth 2 billion years ago. Landing in what is now modern-day South Africa, the Earth's crust trembled and retreated into the probable 300-kilometer-wide monument that still stands to this very day. Though it is hard to pinpoint the exact size of the crater, due to billions of years of erosion, what we can see is clear enough evidence to land this zone easily to the largest crater on Earth. What started as a violent and cataclysmic catastrophe has now turned into a prime opportunity to examine the mineral content of early Earth. When the asteroid struck the ground, it sent much of deeply buried crust high into the air, making it rain back down like the largest model of a tossed salad ever made. With all the twisting and churning, rocks that would normally be stuck deep underground, never to see the light of day again, are now directly at researchers' fingertips. Other minerals that would also be buried due to their weight are close to, if not completely on the surface as well. With this in mind, it is easy to see why a third of the total amount of gold ever mined in human history has come from this area. As R.L. Gibson from the Meteorological Society has stated, such exposed crustal sections are incredibly rare on Earth. The added bonus here is that the rocks preserve an almost continuous record spanning almost one-third of the Earth's history. What remains today of the crater is only a fraction of the immensity that once existed in its place. As stated before, natural erosion has taken its toll, but there is also the factor of human activity as well. Farming and cultivation cover at least half of its predicted area, smoothing and churning the land on a repeated cycle to accelerate what the Earth's forces had already done. Even if the Vredefort crater is the most impressive impact zone on our planet, it is by no means the most well known. Most had never even heard of its existence up to this point. But there is one other scar that almost everyone knows about, even if they are not aware of its name. The Chicxulub crater is the third largest impact zone, spanning a total width of 180 kilometers wide, as well as being 900 meters deep. It sits neatly off of the Yucatan Peninsula, invisible from the surface due to sea erosion even though it only formed 65 million years ago. If the date and location of this crater sound familiar at all, then it should. This is the grave of the asteroid that caused the KT extinction, the final days of the dinosaurs. Finding this crater without modern technology was all but impossible given its state, only being spotted with satellite imagery via a necklace of sinkholes left in the wake of its destruction. Dr. Gary Kinsland, a professor of geology at the University of Louisiana, describes the state of the site in a methodical sort of fashion. When I talk to school children, I describe it like this. Put a bowl on your bed, then throw the sheets and blankets over it. All you'll probably see of the bowl now is a subtle depression. The size of the dinosaur-killing asteroid is presumed to have been around 10 kilometers wide, hitting the ground with speeds as high as 20 miles each and every second. The blast would have been of astronomical scales, supplying the energy to bring the explosion into the range of 100 million megatons, outclassing the largest bomb ever detonated, the Tsar Bomba, which contained a yield of only 50 megatons. The immediate area would have been awash with a wave of superheated plasma at a temperature of 10,000 degrees Celsius, instantly vaporizing any and all life before they would even have the chance to hear the explosion. Winds of 1,000 kilometers per hour would have traveled further, with hurricane-force winds going further still to the extent of 1,500 kilometers away from the impact zone. Tsunamis ravaged the entirety of the Gulf of Mexico, sending waves far higher than anything ever seen before miles inland, the product of a seismic pulse comparable to that of a magnitude 10 earthquake. Even if one was far away from the blast, however, the outlook on a global scale does not appear much better. Just as the Vredefort impact sent crustal materials high into the air, so too did the Chicxulub. A plume of molten rock and debris flies into the atmosphere, going so far as to enter orbit and rain back down like a rain of hellish definition. Dust and ash blocking out the sun, chemical reactions of the suddenly heated atmosphere encouraging acid rain to form, and drop down alongside that of everything else that was rocketing towards the ground. Obviously, these factors did not help life to flourish. While many animals were heavily affected if close to the blast radius, even more survived if they were anywhere except the Gulf of Mexico, at least at first. The species that were more affected were those that were plant-based, as in vegetation. With the sun blocked out and acid rain falling for years on end, incredible amounts of die-off took place amongst the plant populations. Just like a cracking foundation on a house, those that relied on the plants to survive also met the same fate as their food source. And when the herbivores fell, so too did the carnivores. Only the hardiest species survived, with the other 70% going completely extinct. Ever since then, the crater has burned itself into the earth like a testament of what took place that day. Millions of years later, and it was still there, waiting for us to discover it, even if it's hard to see with the naked eye. While these structures are not purely formed by the forces that drive Earth's ever-evolving landscape, it is hard to ignore them as a fundamental aspect in the way that they've shaped the world around us. From their environmental impact to the way they've influenced the very climate itself, their influence goes far deeper than that alone of their initial violent arrival. When all said and done comes to pass, their mark on history will go on, lasting from dawn until dusk, when the lights above finally go out.